You know, a lot of people have come to us after the holidays, after they've already been through the food frenzy and have gained however much weight, feeling tremendously guilty and asking, why did I do that? And I had the best of intentions going into it, and I don't understand why I do what I do. So tonight, we're going to talk about what you can do, how you can plan, what sort of strategy you can put into place to get through Thanksgiving and get through the Christmas holiday or whatever you celebrate. Typically they involve a lot of food. To come out into 2016 feeling confident, feeling like you followed through with what your goals were, feeling like you met your intentions, and not having that same sense of dread as you move through the next couple months of the year. So I just want to kind of start by with the scoop, and I want to ask you guys how much weight you think most people gain through the holidays.
8 pounds.
8 pounds?
Did you say A or 8? 8.
A pound?
I thought I said A pound. You do that at one meal?
And most people do at that one meal. It's actually surprised me because I always thought it was 7 to 8 pounds between Thanksgiving and the New Year. It's 1 to 2 pounds.
That's it.
That's it. Except it's so much harder to take weight off than it is to maintain.
Yeah.
To have to, I mean, most of you here have dieted before, and so to make those necessary changes to allow yourself to lose that weight is much more difficult. So why not set up a plan now to prevent even the 1 to 2 pounds? Average number of calories, I want you guys to guess, and whoever gets closest, I'm going to give you a jug of protein. Average number of calories consumed at Thanksgiving dinner. There's different, like, okay, guess? You have a guess?
4,700.
It's 49. 4,900.
That's hard.
4,900. I, on a daily basis, eat between 1,300 and 1,500. That's like more than 3 days worth of food for me. That's not my average. But considering that, I mean, when you look at what the spread typically is, no one is being super cognizant of what's in it, like how is it going to affect me? Do I actually need it? Do I actually like it? Like, why do we need 5 different kinds of potatoes? So it's those sorts of questions that we can start really processing together before we sit down to a meal. But let's take a guess at the fat.
For 4,900 calories.
Yeah. Any guesses?
Bad with grams.
Of fat?
Yeah, of anything.
Well,
9 grams. 9 calories per gram.
total grams of fat in an average meal, in this meal. Consider, I like to, what puts it in perspective for me is when I compare it to my own intake. You know, if I'm eating 35 to 40 grams a day, and then I compare it to what I might be eating that day, that meal, that would be probably a quarter of what Luke will consume. It's 229. Yeah.
Wow.
And when you look at the food and how much,
For me, 220, that's a lot.
it is a lot. Consider like the sticks of butter that go in the mashed potatoes and the sweet potato casserole and the stuffing. I mean, all the grease that drips down into the stuffing from the turkey itself. The gravy is made with the drippings. Yeah, and so, you know, then you have all the roasted vegetables that have all of the oil drizzled on them. So when you look at it from that perspective, you break it down, it's pretty crazy what we can consume. But it's important to understand too that, you know, most of us go into the meal not necessarily not planning or preparing or having any sense of awareness around what's in it, how do I want to approach this, how am I affected by the other people around me who are eating. I mean, I've been in situations where I look at the plates around me and I'm like, well, whoa, and then sometimes it's, I should be able to eat that much too, and it almost becomes like this internal contest, like who can eat more? And that comparison just doesn't work very well because we all need different amounts. But it's important to start recognizing, if you look back over the years, what have been your patterns of behavior? Like, do you hang out in the kitchen all day while you're cooking and then you're nibbling while you're eating? Are there snacks around when you go to this place? Do you know what to expect? Who's going to be there? Like, what types of foods are going to be served? So these are the sorts of questions that you can start asking yourselves. And, you know, one of the best ways to prepare in any context in life is to say, what have I done before? How has this gone down before? What behaviors was I particularly not proud of? And how might I go into this situation a bit more effectively? Hey, Keith.
Hi.
Can we get more coverage? It's okay. Traffic was bad, it sounded like.
What's that?
Traffic was bad, it sounded like. But our habits don't require any thought. And so most of us will sit down to a meal and just eat, right? We'll just eat. We're not necessarily thinking about what's in the food, how fast we're eating. Pretty soon now we've got a second plate full. So the best way of moving beyond habits is to start becoming more aware of what we do. And the best way to do that is to start observing. For me, and you know, Catherine and I have talked about this a lot, when we want to change our behavior, we want to change how we think about things and perceive things, one of the best ways to approach it is to get curious. Not approach it like, I need to change and I should be doing this and I can't be doing that anymore, but to approach it much more openly, curiously, and from a place of discovery. And it helps you move through the process a bit more fluidly and with less kind of self-blaming. And it can be fun that way when we just start to notice things. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, I had that thought again? Like, I have that thought all the time. It's one of those beliefs that, you know, kind of indicates to us sometimes what our vulnerabilities are and where we have the most struggle. But like I've said here, we have to learn how to get in touch with what our minds are saying, and then we have to learn how to change them and approach them in a new way. So I'm kind of getting into a little bit of the psychology of this, but I think it's super, super important. We can't just go into it and say, you know what, I'm not going to eat that and I'm only going to eat this and expect that it's going to work real well. Because how well has it worked before? Probably not so well. So the ingredients for success, in order to move through this process and move through the holidays more effectively, is to, one, be engaged in a purposeful process. Okay? We have to set some intentions. We have to sit down, set some goals, think about how we would like to move through it. We need to decide and commit to learning. If I'm going to do this, then I have to be willing to learn some new things, to be open up to new ideas. You know, in the past, I've been to different Thanksgiving dinners with relatives, and I've asked if we could cook things a different way. And, you know, oftentimes there's been resistance. You know what? It's a tradition. No, we have to have it this way only, or everyone else will be very disappointed. And that's hard. It's really hard. And so, you know, I to approach situations like that have been like, well, let's make a couple different versions. Because I want to eat. And I want to feel comfortable eating. So if you're going to a holiday party, for example, and you know that it's probably not going to be the healthiest food there, and you would like to partake, bring some dishes that you will feel comfortable eating, but that everyone else could eat too. Don't just bring a Tupperware container with enough for yourself, but bring it to share. It's developing practical strategies like that. And then it's adopting a structure with flexibility. And you guys know, who have worked with me, that it's all about structured flexibility. Whether you're talking about Thanksgiving, whether you're talking about Christmas, holidays, food frenzy type of situations, that's how we have to navigate life. That's how we have to navigate our nutrition and our health in general. If we're too rigid, we're never going to get anywhere. We won't be able to make the changes that we want to and have them be sustainable. So we need some boundaries, we need some guidelines, structure, but we also need to be comfortable learning how to meander between those guidelines and move and shift in a way that's going to help us be more resilient through the tough stuff. And then there's the attentional positioning. I like to call it that because the concept that I've talked about so often with you guys is the metabolic positioning, understanding how we can position our metabolisms in a way that allows us to lose body fat the fastest and the most effectively without starving, without being miserable. So we need to focus not only on the physiology and our metabolisms, but we also have to focus on the psychology and our attention. What are we paying attention to? And how can we learn to shift that in a way that allows us to be more flexible? So when I talk about deciding and committing, I think of mindset. We set our minds, we make an intention onto something tangible, right? And I think that for most people, it really helps to write it down. Get it out on paper and then say it out loud. It's great swimming around in your head, and it'll just keep swimming around in there over and over and over and over again. But if you can get it out on paper so you can see it and then read it out loud to yourself, it has so much more meaning. But to ask yourself, why is this important to me? You know, we know that the individuals who can move most consistently and persistently to their goal, right? Pursue their goal with those characteristics are those who have identified past, I want to lose weight, past, I want to be thin, into the values that are going to carry them to their outcome. Those values are what you need to identify to get there. And it's really what needs to be at the heart of your intentions. When you sit down for Thanksgiving, I mean, I think it's kind of important to ask, why are we here in the first place? Are we here because we want to stuff our faces? No, I think that you should enjoy the meal and it should be pleasurable. Like, I don't need anything I don't like. You guys have heard me say that. I love my food. But are we there to create relationships and foster compassion between one another? And so ask that question before you move into the holidays. Why is this important to me? And why is the holiday important to me? And why is this goal important to me? Another question, what do I want to be able to say when the new year begins? What do I want to be able to say when I go to bed tonight after this dinner? Oh, why did I do this again? Oh my gosh, I'm so miserable. Oh my gosh, I can't walk. Like, my stomach hurts so bad. I remember last year, yeah, not me. Like, I did pretty well, but I remember Seth. Oh, and then he would get up and get more food. Oh my God. Oh my God, my stomach hurts so bad. Where are the sweet potatoes? then I think it really, you know, it boils down to, at that point, it's like, what the hell effect?
Yeah.
You know what? I've already done so much damage. I'm already hurting so much. Why not go for it all? It can't get any worse than this, right? So you have to play your actions forward. You really do. And for me, and even in my day-to-day life, because and I've explained this to you before, the first thing I typically think about when I get anxious is, where are the snacks? I want to go find the snacks. So you could call me a stress eater. I typically don't eat, but food is something that I think about when I do get stressed. So when we play our actions forward, to me, it's, you know, that sense of disappointment and that feeling of, why did I let myself down again, is so much worse than the brief amount of pleasure I'm going to get from eating that second helping of potatoes. The other thing to remember is that it's not the Last Supper. It's not. You guys could make any of that food anytime. You guys could choose to stuff a turkey and cook it. You could make the sweet potato souffle. You probably won't, but you could. But you could. These foods are not disappearing. There may be some, like grandma's whatever chocolate mousse pie or whatever that is only made once a year. But you guys get my point. And anticipate as you go in what struggles you might come up against and what strengths you have going in. We can talk all night about our struggles and how hard and arduous this is going to be, and oh my gosh, like, I just want to avoid the whole thing. Or we can go into it looking at it like, look how far I've come already. These are my strengths. In the other context of my life, like, this is what I've done to persist when I'm pursuing something that's important to me. How can I extend those skills and strengths into this situation too? And you know what? A lot of times you've had support from other people. Why would you go into this situation any differently? Make a pact with people who you know have similar goals with you before you go into it. And then we'll convene afterwards and compare notes. Find your support people who are, you know, those people who are important to you. So here's some practical strategies. Don't skip breakfast, guys. Eat your Wheaties. Okay? Don't save up all day long for the big meal at the end of the day. Obviously, you're going to be starving. And I mean, not literally starving. You're going to think you're starving. You have fat reserves to use while you're fasting into that meal. But you're going to eat a lot faster, which means you're going to eat a lot more food, and you're not going to even taste it. When we're that hungry and there's that sense of urgency to eat, we're not tasting our food. We're not even enjoying it. So what I like to do is, if we have a big family meal, like, it's best, keep all the food in the kitchen, if possible. Keep all the food in the kitchen. People get their plates, go around, get their plate of food, then they go to the big table to sit down and enjoy the meal together. Out of sight, more out of mind. Okay? You're going to eat more if it's right in front of you. This is where I talk about, like, you have to engineer your environment. On a day-to-day basis, for me, I know what my trigger foods are. I know what foods that I just shouldn't have around me. Because if they're there, I'm going to eat them. And I don't want to eat them. I don't want them calling my name, because they tend not to be healthy stuff. It's like salty, crunchy pita chips and trail mix, and not good for Kori. So in this situation too, learn to structure your environment. And then what I do also, and we do this, family dinner nights. We have family dinner nights on Mondays. I will look at everything available first, instead of just getting a plate and putting all of the choices on my plate. See what's there. It's like a buffet. You want to peruse all the food choices first, make mental notes about, okay, I'll have a little bit of that, like that's actually my favorite. You know what? I don't need a roll if I'm going to have mashed potatoes. What do you like best? You don't need everything. And, you know, learn from the Lilliputians. Do you guys remember the Lilliputians from Gulliver's Travels? They're the little people. So think small. Think small. You can always go back and get seconds. But you know what? Partition your plate. Leave some white space on your plate and just see what happens. See what happens. It doesn't need to be mounded over. You can always go back. Okay? And then slow down. I like to set goals for myself. Grandma is great at this. Grandma chews her food like each bite about 30 times.
34.
34?
She really does.
Yeah, she is always like the last one to leave the table. She always has food left on her plate. See, have some fun with it. See if you can do it. Set a goal for chewing your food a certain amount of time and putting your fork down between each bite. And when you put your fork down, take say, I'm going to have 4 gulps of water after I put my fork down. Make it a contest. See if you can be the slowest person to finish your meal. And being mindful, you know, when you have a big group of people, it's this can be difficult because there's lots of conversation and banter going on, and so, you know, think about it. If you're eating and talking at the same time, you're paying attention to one or the other, right? If you're actually tasting the sweet potato casserole and you're thinking about the sweetness of, you know, the brown sugar and that satiety of, you know, you can taste the butter and the salt in the butter. Are you actually paying attention to what the person across from you is saying? No, you're not. And vice versa. So by mindful, it's what am I going to pay attention to here? And it will help you eat slower at the same time if you recognize where's my attention right now. One of my favorite parts about like Thanksgiving or the Christmas holiday is just the smells as the food is cooking. I love the smells. So mindfulness is, can I focus on the smells? Like, can I appreciate the sights and the beautiful colors of the meal because they're so vibrant? The actual texture of the food in your mouth, because there's so many different textures, from the turkey to the sweet potatoes to the rolls to the crunchy veggies. Do I sound like a crazy person to you guys right now?
No, I'm just hungry.
I need dinner! So that's mindfulness, and not judging yourself through this process. You know, you're going to eat more than you typically do. I do, you will. But eat more moderately. So we'll go through like some different strategies that you can use to make your favorites a little bit healthier, some different substitutions. But just real quickly here, to hit on structured flexibility again, your routine is not going to be the same. But I would recommend, like if you have the time, go get a great workout in the morning before dinner. Set your metabolism up for it. You're going to have a little bit more food, so get that metabolism rolling. And you'll feel better when you sit down to actually eat your meal. And because you worked out, you'll probably eat a meal beforehand, which will also help you. So don't skip any of those meals. And we hit on this. Play your actions forward. Bouncing back quickly is really important. So if you're like, wow, I ate a lot more than I had intended to, than I wanted to, I'm feeling really, really full right now. Don't succumb to thinking that, you know what, the whole day is a wash. You still have the whole rest of the day. And what most people will do is lay around and then get up and have a second meal. You don't have to. You don't have to do that. You get to set your rules. for the day, your boundaries and your limits. So some things about adjusting your attitude as you go into it. Rather than thinking, you know, can I do this? Can I really do it this time? I want you to ask yourselves, how can I do it? You're setting yourself up for success this way. You're accessing the possibilities that you can move through this more successfully. Can I? You have one of two answers, yes or no. How can I means you can strategize. You are assuming the sale at this point, okay? Instead of saying I can't, you can say I choose not to. If you're currently dieting right now and you want to be healthier, okay? When someone offers you whatever, saying I can't, I'm on a diet, is not going to bode very well. One, it doesn't make you feel good. Now you feel deprived. Everyone else is eating it. And it doesn't make the other person feel good either, because now they're thinking you're miserable. So, no thank you. No thank you. That's all you have to say. No thank you. And they may press. Oh, come on, have some. No thank you. And they may press some more. This has happened to me before in restaurants. Push, push, push. No thank you. I just keep repeating myself. No thank you. Or I'm full. Or I've already had some. You don't have to tell the truth. You don't. But being able to say, I'm choosing not to have that, is much more empowering than I can't. Because one, I can't is not even true. You totally can. You can. You can have anything you want. Learning to approach it from a creative versus a catastrophic mindset. Like, this is not going to go down well. I wonder how this can go down well. So you're approaching it with a sense of curiosity and responding to the situation with more openness, with more expansiveness, from a place of discovery, instead of being impulsive. And that's hard when there's all that food in front of you and you're hungry and you've been looking forward to it, not just all day, but for the last few months, you know, being able to slow down and breathe and recognize that I'm okay right here, right now, I'm fine, I'm fine. Talking yourself down from the ledge, so to speak, so that you can be more slow and mindful. So it's important to recognize, guys, that we're all different. We don't all need the same amount of food. I am not going to keep up with Luke. That would be a very bad idea. Keith, that's Luke behind you.
Hey, Luke.
He's in, we're in our business alliance group together, yeah. So we all have different metabolisms. That's an important thing to recognize. The average female metabolism is no higher than 1,350 calories for maintenance, not for dieting, for weight loss. That's for maintenance. And then the average male metabolism is 1,600 calories. Now, of course, you know, there are caveats. If you're, you know, if you have more muscle, you're going to burn more calories per day. You can eat more food. If you're exercising more, that too. But consider what you need. Don't compare yourself to other people. That does not matter. You guys, I'm sure, have likely thought about, and if you're working with me, you have, what your beliefs around food are, what the old stories are created from, you know, how you grew up and how you were raised. And, you know, I've told you stories about how food to me, I come from like a place of scarcity, not abundance, and grew up in a very frugal household, and so I'm always comparing food to money. But I have a story that I kind of want to read to you guys that really conveys this well, and this is from one of my clients. And we were talking about how, you know, a lot of the behaviors that we engage in and the changes that we make as we're learning to navigate our food environment and our health and our goals in that regard can be divided into kind of two categories. The adaptive category, which is how I move through the goal emotionally like my beliefs, my biases, what the meaning of food is to me. Do I eat emotionally, like when I'm upset, when I'm stressed? And then the technical aspects of it, which are just the practical things like tracking, logging, weighing myself, you know, those more sort of behavioral things. And this is what my client said. My challenge today was lunch out with friends who all were going for the special of the day, chicken and dumplings, which just happens to be a favorite comfort food of mine. See how it's related emotionally. Honestly, I would have been fine with a salad or light sandwich, but everyone was ordering the meal. I didn't want to be different or appear better than everyone else by taking the high road and eating healthy. You see how she has these definitions? But I really, really like dumplings. Boy, did I pay for it later in the afternoon. I felt like I'd been drugged. Anyway, I pulled back the rest of the day, my success for the day, but I still went over a bit in carbs and fat. I just finished listening to the first Change Your Relationship with Food audio. And if you guys are working with me, you're involved in our online course room, and we have these podcasts for you to listen to, videos, PDFs that are part of your class. It will take some practice to pause and check in with my feelings when what I want to eat is the food in front of me. As I think back on lunch today, I would say my feelings were for connectedness with my friends. You know what? Just now as I typed that last sentence, I had a thought that is straight from my childhood growing up with all brothers, 4 of them, no sisters. They always teased me and thought I was silly because I was different. I liked and did different things. I played with dolls, I liked dresses and girly stuff. As we got older, the teasing morphed into accusations that I always thought I was better than them and was privileged and too good to be like them. I'm rereading my first paragraph, and I see that I actually stated that I didn't want my friends to think I was better than them for not eating like them. Goodness, what did I just learn? She processed that in her email to me. This is a woman in her 50s, and she'd never realized the meanings and the emotion that she had around food that was guiding her entire life from these moments with her brothers. So, I mean, it's really compelling to start to reflect on the beliefs that we're guiding, or that are guiding us, and we need to learn how to, as we're becoming more aware of them, guide them. This is a story that was written for her, that she's read over and over and over and over again and just believed. And now she's learning to rewrite it for herself. So let's take a look at the menu. I want you to understand, kind of from a caloric perspective, what we're looking at here. Roasted, dark, and white meat turkey with skin. Okay? A lot of people like the skin because it's nice and crispy. It's been basted 10, 15, 20 times throughout the 4 hours it's been cooking, right? 450 calories just for like a 3 to 4 ounce serving of dark and light meat. And dark meat has more fat in it than the white meat does. Homemade stuffing with gravy, typically in the turkey, right, with all of the fat drippings from the turkey as it's been cooking. 600 calories for a typical size serving. Cranberry relish, 200. Candied sweet potatoes, so you've got the butter, you've got the brown sugar. What else? Marshmallows, yes. So all carbohydrates, just pure sugar. That's all sugar and fat. There's really no protein in that meal. Green bean casserole, okay? The green bean, or the cream of mushroom soup, really, really high in fat. And then you have the French fried onions on top. Pumpkin pie with whipped cream, my personal favorite. Cup of eggnog. Okay, we're at 2640. That's what can happen. A meal like that.
a monster there?
There will be one there, yes, at the Thanksgiving table. So how do we change this? Okay, let's primarily focus on white meat, okay? Significantly less fat and no skin. You don't need skin. Turkey sausage. What is your mom? What kind of sausage? She puts sausage in her stuffing.
Sausage and bacon.
It's sausage and bacon.
I don't even like stuffing, but hers is awesome.
So there.
It's not on this menu, it's on the other one.
Right. There are, like, has anyone tried chicken or turkey sausage? It's awesome, and for so much less fat. So substituting that can make a huge difference. Typically the gravy is made from the drippings and a bunch of flour. I use the packet gravy. It doesn't taste, I like it. I mean, have a few options. There's no fat in it. Roasted sweet potatoes. Okay, braised collard greens, asparagus, Brussels sprouts. You know, when I've done a Thanksgiving meal, I always have like this huge salad, a ton of different vegetables to choose from, because I want to fill most of my plate with those. I love them. I'm not doing it just to not eat the other stuff. I love that food. I love clean food. So have an array of that stuff that you can fill at least like half your plate with. I mean, for me, it's the veggies and the turkey. Turkey is my absolute favorite, and then I would just make like a huge turkey salad. Apple raspberry crumble and unsweetened iced tea. So there are options. There are options. Pick your favorites. I think for a lot of people, it's the sweet potato pie. It's like, we're not going to mess with that. Like, we're doing it up exactly right, and we're not touching it, and enjoy it, and then decide how you want to meander around that if that's your favorite thing. So here's some modifications. Using skim milk versus cream in your mashed potatoes. Okay? Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. And then butter flavored sprinkles instead of sticks of butter. You can also use cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes. Or do half and half. No one's ever going to know. If you're trying to pull the wool over their eyes, but some other things. Sweet potato casserole, you could do roasted sweet potatoes, like I said. You could actually bake sweet potatoes. You could do twice baked sweet potatoes, or you could do roasted butternut squash. Or you could do all of those. If you're having a super huge get-together, do all of them, and then you have choices. Who likes butternut squash? I love butternut squash. And you could mash that just like you can sweet potatoes. And it's super sweet. Oh. Okay, here's your green bean casserole. You can use fat-free cream of mushroom soup. And you can have the French fried mushrooms on the side. That way people can add them on their own. No, it doesn't look as pretty. But it's going down the hatch anyway, and it looks much uglier in there. Fresh green beans with shaved Parmesan and bacon.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty? Like, I love how that looks. And then, like I said, other steamed or roasted vegetables. And when you roast veggies, you don't have to use oil. Use like the butter-flavored Pam. You don't have to use oil. I did that with my Brussels sprouts a couple weeks ago. And then turkey or chicken sausage versus chorizo or regular sausage. It is amazing how much fat you will save. Cook your stuffing outside of the turkey instead of inside the turkey, or do both, and then you have the option. And using whole grain bread instead of white or cornbread, at least you're getting some fiber. Carbs, comparable. But if you're focusing on health and you like the grainy texture of more whole grain bread, like I do, and then you can use broth instead of butter. This is something that, you know, when I'm cooking just day to day, no butter, no oil, because I'd like to eat my fat from other sources like avocado, goat cheese, peanut butter. Those are my 3 favorite fat sources. So if I'm cooking anything using like a low sodium chicken or vegetable broth, you can do anything in that. So it gives it a lot of flavor, but with absolutely no fat. So here's to living your best life through the holidays. So questions, concerns?
You mentioned goat cheese. Is
Yeah.
it a source of fat? I love avocados. I also like
Mm-hmm.
goat cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there's I think I
Different
mentioned
sources of
before.
fat.
Saturated, unsaturated.
Yes, it's unsaturated is the avocado because it's a
Yep.
plant-based fat,
Okay.
and then the animal-based fats are saturated fats. But goat cheese, Keith, has less fat than something like cheddar,
Oh, really?
provolone.
So much better.
It is, I agree, and you're getting about half the fat.